Hey there, y'all, and welcome to the kitchen. Today I'm going to teach you how to do a delicious sun-dried tomato basil chicken pasta. It's going to have a nice creamy sauce to it, and you're going to be able to do this with a lot of my shortcut tips because it is super easy to do when you have a few meal prepped things on hand. So first thing I want to show you is what all I have that I'm working with. I've got some pre-cooked pasta, and people are like, how do you even do that? You obviously have to cook it ahead of time, and it's not any more difficult than cooking it the way you do night of. All you do is you cook it in salted water, just like the ocean salted water, drain it, cool it completely, and then put it in a container, and it stays in your fridge for a few days. You can use it all week long for different dishes, but this is just a pound of penne pasta, and it's just ready to go. I cooked it to al dente, which means just shy of the doneness that you would like, probably in America, but in Italian, al dente is how they eat it in Italy. So this is just penne pasta. I cooked it, and it's completely cooled, ready to go for my dish. You don't have to do that ahead of time. It could obviously be cooking on another pan while you do that, but this is part of the things that I teach in meal prep stuff. Have some pasta, have some rice on hand. It's going to save you later. Another thing I have found is I found some tomato basil marinated chicken in my grocery store this week. Very yummy thing to find. If you can get it, I would just get it to make your life so much easier. But if you don't find it, it's easy to get their shortcut way too. All you have to do is get some prepared pesto and a jar of sun-dried tomatoes and oil. You take about 3 or 4 of those sun-dried tomatoes and a 1/4 cup of pesto, blend them together real quick in your food processor, and they can marinate your chicken. This is 2 good-sized chicken breasts, and they were so large that I broke them down into a few smaller pieces so they'll be quicker to cook and easier to navigate in my pan. And we're going to be building this dish in the same pan because we want to keep our flavor all together in the same dish. Anytime you sear meat, don't waste the flavor. Take that time to use the flavor in the bottom of your pan and continue to really build out that dish in the same pan. So you want to plan ahead to get a big enough pan for everybody to fit in. This is the biggest one I've got, so we're going to go with it and pray because I don't want to use the high sides to show you without you being able to see. If you've got something at home with a little higher sides, go ahead and pick that pan. Then I also have some Parmesan cheese, some cream cheese, some minced garlic, and an onion, because what do I ever do without garlic and onions? If you want to shortcut the onion, you can easily get a pre-chopped onion in the freezer section. It's in a bag, easy peasy. One of the ingredients I love to have on hand all the time. And it really, when I tell people it exists, they're like, are you kidding me? I don't have to cry over onions. You don't have to cry over onions. And then the last thing that I have is a little bit of chicken base or chicken bouillon. We're just going to round out this dish at the end. I'm going to need a little water to loosen up the creaminess of my dish. And anytime I do that, I like to add some beef base or chicken base to that in whatever I'm cooking because you want that water to have value and flavor. So if you have chicken stock on hand, you could easily use chicken stock, but I'm going to use a little water and a couple tablespoons of chicken base to really bump up the savory flavor of our dish. So in my pan, I'm going to get it heated to about medium-high heat. I have a couple tablespoons of avocado oil. You can also use olive oil if that's what you have on hand, but I'm just really on the avocado oil train right now. And I'm just going to take this opportunity to give a little extra sprinkling of salt to my marinated chicken. Anytime I have something that's pre-marinated from the store, I always take a little opportunity to sprinkle it with a little more kosher salt so it has as much flavor as I would like it to have. Because remember, we're building flavors here. We want to make sure that we have every opportunity to layer in flavor throughout the process so the end result is as delicious as we expect it to be, and we're not sitting there salting and salting and salting at the table. So I've got medium-high heat under my pan, and I'm going to wait till I get a little smoke and ripple, and that's exactly where I'm at. So I'm going to put my chicken in first. The order that we do these meals in really does matter. It makes your dish come together at the end all at the right time. So obviously my chicken is going to be the longest thing. So while my chicken is going, I'm going to be able to prep my other ingredients like chopping my onion so it's ready to go into the pan. This is a dish that really is one of the things that I got inspired by the grocery store for the very first time. You can really see what's in the store and give yourself some new ideas that you would have never thought of on your own. There's a lot of good things in the grocery store that could really help you without you spending a lot of extra money on it. So pay attention to those shortcut things like marinated meat and things like that that you find. Okay, so I'm going to take this opportunity to chop my onion, and I want you to make sure you see how I do this, because if you're not getting your pre-chopped onion in the freezer section, this is going to be the best way for you to get to the finish line without all the tears. And as I always say, it's very important to have a sharp knife. I'll link this below in the description, because a sharp knife is going to save you some tears every single time. It's also going to be less dangerous, because anytime you're sawing through whatever, you're more likely to cut yourself. So a sharp knife is actually your friend. But here's the method of how you're going to hold your hands and how you're going to chop an onion. So first things first, for this I'm going to take both ends, the root end and the top off. And then I'm just going to cut this guy in half to get him easy to navigate on my board. Anytime you have onion skin, you just want to take off the layers that are not perfect and they're really flimsy and papery. Anytime you get to a thick ring of your onion, that's when it's time to stop. So I'm going to take off my 2 layers of onion skin. And if you have a frozen bag of onions that you're going to throw in this dish, this is going to be a good cup of onions. So just use a cup out of that bag of frozen, and if there's anything extra, depending on how big your bag is, just save that for later in your fridge. Okay, so here's the method. I start my onion by holding my hand like this, and I'm safely going to put my knife under here. And we're just going to go through and do a few rows of slices. And then I'm going to turn it this way, and my fingers are going to become curled under as I pass through my onion towards my fingers. When I get about halfway, I'm going to rock it forward to add stability, curling my fingers under again, and go the rest of the way. And that's all you have to do to safely and effectively have a really evenly diced onion. I'll show you again a little quicker. Through, turn it, line them up, through again. And it depends how fresh your onion is. Some are more powerful than others. You may still have a tear or two, but it won't be nowhere near as bad. Okay, those are ready. I'm going to put them to the side and be ready to flip my chicken. Now your chicken's going to have a little browning on it, and that's really good. You're going to want to keep that browning in the bottom of the pan. But we also want to make sure that we don't have too high of a heat so we don't burn our marinade. So I'm going to leave that going, wash up my fingers just a little bit, make sure the onion juice is off of it. And I'm going to get a plate for my chicken to rest on when it comes out of the pan. And get my little tears wiped, because I do have one or two. That was a strong onion. Okay, I'm getting a plate because my chicken will rest a good few minutes while we're building the rest of this dish out. Thanks to the fact that I went ahead and did my preheat on my pan. They're going to really cook, and because they're smaller, they're going to cook faster as well. And then we're going to let them rest in that pan, and the juices will redistribute into our chicken before we chop it up smaller, so that way they won't be dried out pieces of chicken. If you have a chance to rest your chicken, always take it. Okay, so now my chicken looks really, really good. I'm going to just babysit it in this pan a little bit. Yep, it's looking really pretty. Anytime that you have a pre-marinated meat, you want to take the opportunity to make sure you're careful with your seasoning, careful with your searing, and you don't over-season it if you do it individually on your own after it comes out of the package. Just a little sprinkling of salt to wake up those flavors is all it takes. You don't need to add a ton of other stuff. You don't want to get it so much salty to the point where you're not able to eat it. But it is important to wake up whatever is already in that package. Okay. This is happening in no time. Let me get my pasta out and ready. My cream cheese unwrapped. I'm telling you, this is so fast. The slowest part of the whole dish is cooking the chicken. Especially when you have your pasta already ready. And if you see me doing this on this side, I have a garbage bowl on my counter. And this is a huge tip. I keep a garbage bowl on my counter so I'm not taking trip after trip after trip to the trash can while I'm cooking. It saves steps and time. So at the end, I just take everything in the garbage bowl, take it to the trash can, one trip, and done. I love doing that. It helps me so much. Cream cheese is going to be best in this if you've let it sit on the counter for a few minutes and get a little softer, so it doesn't take quite so long to melt in your pan. But if you don't have time, it'll just take an extra minute or so. This is a really good ingredient to get you to a creamy pasta base because it has that background tangy flavor that can kind of feel lighter than a normal heavy cream sauce in a pasta. So we got a good sear on these. We're going to pull them out. And then in the bottom of my pan, I'm going to go ahead and add my onion to this. Now I've turned my heat back, but I'm going to add a little bit more oil. And my onion's going to go in first. And we want our onion to get a little soft before we start building the rest of our dish. It's going to go for a minute or so. Then we're going to add in our garlic. This is such a happy dish for me. It's just like, who could ever be unhappy with a bowl of creamy pasta in front of them? I mean, come on. So my onion's going to start. And there's a lot of seasoning in the bottom of this pan, but it's very important that you have the moisture come out of your onions to add to the deglazing property of this pan. So for the onions to weep, is what it's called, we're going to add a little salt to them, and the salt helps the onions weep into the pasta liquid and give that extra oomph to the bottom of the pan, like a little deglazing sauce would be. They're going to let out their natural juices, and it's going to start helping you getting those brown bits off the bottom of the pan. Anytime I do this, and this is the stopping point, and I'm making like a pan gravy, I'll add a couple of tablespoons of water to help me along. But because we're building the rest of the dish right here in this pan, we'll add liquid later. And this is going to just do the trick that we need right here, right now. So after a minute or so, those are going to get good and soft, or start getting good and soft. So we can add some garlic. My heat is on medium here. We don't want to have high heat for adding garlic to the pan, especially after we have that marinade in there. We don't want that to burn. So we're going to be very careful to keep an eye on the browning portion of our pan. So I'm going to go in, and this is Italian dish. I'm going to go in with 2 tablespoons of garlic here. A lot of pasta and a lot of chicken in this dish, so you want it to have a lot of punch of flavor. And I'm also going to add a little bit of Italian seasoning. Where's my Italian seasoning? Ah, here it is. Italian seasoning. So I'm going to get a little tablespoon of Italian seasoning, and I'm just going to put it in my hand like this. And as I put it in, number one, it's going to go into a pretty good hot pan. So the heat is going to wake up the dried spice. But it's also been in here for a long enough time that I want to help it out even a little bit more. So I'm going to rub this in my hand as it goes into the dish and allow it to release the fragrance of the herbs that have kind of been asleep for a while. So between my hands rubbing it like that and the pan, that Italian seasoning is really going to pack a punch. Y'all, this smells so good already, and we're not even at the home stretch. While that's happening, I am going to take the chance to put a little cover over my chicken so it has a chance to really chill out without getting cold. I like to use a pan lid. If I don't need to pull off the extra piece of foil, I won't do that. So my pan lid works perfectly fine right here for that. Now, the next thing I want to do is talk about how you do adding the cream sauce together in the pan before the pasta goes in. So I'm going to get in the center of my pan here a little well. And just move my onions and garlic to the side, and I'm going to put my cream cheese directly in the bottom of my pan. And it's going to start to just really melt down a little bit, but it is going to take, like I said, a little help from some liquid to really get saucy. See, I almost went to my trash can and I don't need to because I'm talking. It's always good to talk to a friend while you're cooking, but sometimes it can be distracting. My now 4-year-old, she had a birthday last week. Her new favorite thing to say right now is she asks me for something, and I'll say, okay, babe, hold on just a minute. I'll get it in a second. And if it's been more than a minute, she'll go, Mommy, don't get distracted. So sometimes I guess it is one of those things when you're a multitasking mama, distractions happen. And she'll say, Mommy, don't get distracted, in her patient little voice. So I'm going to take my cream cheese and I'm going to start to break it down into little smaller sections. And I can see that it's starting to melt already. I have a jar of water with me at all times beside my stove when I'm cooking, because you never know when something's going to need to be slowed down in the cooking process, and a few tablespoons of water will do that. But I know that I'm going to be cooking this whole meal and eventually need water anyway, so I started out with a jar of water beside me. So I'm going to take this opportunity to add in we're going to start with 1/4 of a cup of water. And because I'm going to want this to be really, really saucy, I'm going to eventually add some more and some chicken base. But this is the part where I'm just kind of helping our cream cheese do the melting part. I can turn my heat up slightly now that my cream cheese and water are in here and not just my onions. And I'm going to use this chance to continue to finish getting all the brown bits off of the bottom of my pan. There is a saying in the food world that was started by a chef that I watched in the early years of me learning to cook, Amber Elle, and she says all the time, brown food tastes good, and it's a cooking lesson in itself. If that food's not brown, it's not time to move it yet, and if there's brown bits in the bottom of your pan, that's going to add flavor to your food. So take every opportunity to build flavor and brown your dishes, because that little bit of time will actually get you to the finish line a lot better results than what you would have started with if you'd hurried that along. So my cream sauce is starting to come in together, so I'm going to add a little bit more water in my chicken base now. Now I'm going to probably go ahead and add another 1/2 cup of water here. And now your chicken base, if you want to use chicken stock, this is just leave out the chicken base, and as I'm adding water, you're adding stock. But the chicken base is something that I like to have on hand because it adds savory chicken flavor to any dish that I'm making without me having to open another box of stock. So I'm going to add a tablespoon of chicken base or bouillon. I'll show you what this is. I get it in the grocery store. I like to find the organic version, and it stays in the fridge. And I use it all the time. Even in things that you would never expect, like I just stir in a little bit of chicken base in my slow cooked chicken soup and it takes it to a finish line. I put it in gravy all the time to boost the flavor. All kinds of things that could be used for this. And so now that has some rich chicken flavor in it, it's making a savory, creamy, tangy sauce. My cream cheese is melting down into there. Everything's got a happy place to go. If you wanted to, you could easily amp up the vegetable quality of this without making a side dish by adding a couple of handfuls of spinach in at this point. That would be a delicious addition. If it's springtime, you could cut down some yummy, thin, fresh asparagus and add into this at this point. Or if your kids aren't too terribly picky, a little handful of some spring peas would go far in this, I feel like, as well. So just keep your options open. You could always add to any of these things that I'm teaching you a few vegetables here and there to really bring home that extra full flavor of vegetable goodness. Okay, my cream sauce is getting very happy. So now I'm going to add in some pasta as soon as my last few blocks of cream cheese are down into this liquid and dissolved. And I also want to take this chance to give a little extra salt and pepper to the dish. So another little tiny sprinkling of salt. Every time I do this, I do a pinch, which when I say a pinch, literally it's like a pinch of salt. So I add pinch by pinch in this case, so we don't over salt. But anytime you just don't salt, you'll end up at the finish line wishing you had done a little bit more along the way. And fresh cracked black pepper. You can use about 1/2 teaspoon to a teaspoon here, but I like to count it by the cracks. Do about 10 to 20 cracks of fresh cracked black. That's a mouthful. Now I see my sauce is getting a little bit thick, so I'm going to add another 1/2 cup of water. Turn my heat back just a little bit. So now we've added a whole, about, I would say, 1.5 cups to 2 cups of liquid here. And we've got our cream cheese broken down into our sauce, and our pasta is ready to go in. Now, like I said, our pasta is completely cooked. It is al dente, so it's going to take another 1 to 2 minutes in sauce, and it's going to continue to cook. And then it will be perfectly cooked when you get to the finish line of your dish. And like I said, this is the biggest one that I had, biggest pan that I had that y'all could still see me cook in. So if you've got one with higher sides than this, don't risk it for the biscuit. Use the higher side pan because you're not trying to show anybody what it looks like. So this is going to work out perfect, I think, though. I'm going to start stirring my pasta into my sauce. Make sure it's all down in there. The creaminess is fantastic. And as you can see, when you do the meal prep portion of this, this comes together in real time. We've been going for about 20 minutes and we are almost to the finish line. Even if you had not done that though, it would have been close to 30 because all you would have done additionally is wait on pasta to continue to cook. And that would have been that. So altogether we had about, I'd say 2 cups of liquid in here to get this good creamy consistency. And then I'm going to chop my chicken. Now my chicken's been resting. We've had it out for about 10 minutes. And I'm gonna just chop it. And it's got this great brown on the outside that's gonna add so much big flavor to our dish. Brown food tastes good. But you also wanna make sure that you have got your doneness completely finished on the inside. And you wanna have white meat chicken. That's the goal. White chicken, no pink behind. And that's exactly what we have. Still very juicy. Still completely moist. No dryness to this chicken whatsoever. You just put it back into your pasta. Another easy tip for this is if you did not want to do the cream cheese portion and you wanted to shortcut that even more, you could easily just buy a jar of Alfredo. But I would still thin it out and add a little bit of chicken base to it to add that flavor in, and you would definitely be happy with that dish. So this is a good bit of chicken pasta. My family is going to be satisfied. This would feed 4 to 6. If 4 is for adults, I say 6 if you've got small children. Typically what we do is we have little ones that eat the portion of 1 adult, and then we have 3 adults at home most of the time right now, sometimes 4. And usually there's something for one of our kids to take to, or my husband to take to lunch the next day. I love that. I love to have extras on hand for my husband to take for lunch with my son. So, also, important, there's some yummy juice in this pan. We're not gonna waste that. We're gonna get that back down into this dish. Flavor, flavor, flavor never goes down the drain. That should be a song. Flavor, flavor, flavor never goes down the drain. And now I'm gonna get a bigger spoon and start to stir this together and rinse my hand real quick. Now I'm gonna turn the heat off too because our dish is done. We're just stirring it together at this point. And look at that yummy chicken. The color is fantastic. Let me get a spoon. And you can see the value in having a little higher sides. But I have a little experience with this, so don't worry about me. I'll actually move it over so y'all can see a little bit better. Let me move this stuff out of the way. We love easy pasta dishes in our house. Anytime I've got a pinch of time crunch, I throw together a quick pasta like this, and nobody even cares that I rushed. It's so funny. My family, they have their dishes that they like that I do low and slow, like beef stew or my spaghetti and meatballs. They take time. But anytime I do something like, oh, we're in a hurry, I need to do taco night or spaghetti night or something like that that's easy like this, nobody's complaining. So you can see how delicious this big pan of pasta is. The sun-dried tomato fragrance is in the air. And I'm gonna tell you, if you bought that sun-dried tomato and you did in oil and you did the combination with the pesto and you have a few extra in the jar, it wouldn't hurt anything to chop those up and add those to this dish. Now, the final piece. You thought we were done, but we're not. Parmesan cheese. And I mean, you can garnish this and do as you would like to with some parsley, some basil. But this is gonna be delicious just like this. Okay, time to show you what it looks like. Time to taste. I mean, look, you see what it looks like. Time to taste. I'm gonna get me a bowl. Oh yeah, I want a bowl for this because I don't want to chase my noodles around the plate. This is going to take what people look at it and say, oh, that's just chicken Alfredo. And then they're gonna taste that sun-dried tomato and basil in there, and they're gonna be like, oh, that's not just Alfredo. That's something else. Get a fork. And this is my lunch. I'll share the rest of this later. Look at that, y'all. Creamy, crispy brown chicken. So juicy. Look at that chicken. Y'all. Buy the pasta because I have to. Do a happy dance when you're happy about what goes in your mouth. If you want to serve this with a salad on the side, you can. But like I said, easily wilt down some spinach in there. Or just serve this with some garlic bread, or as it is. I hope you've enjoyed this meal. I'm going to go ahead and link below what you can find on Amazon as far as what knife I use. It's a really affordable and good knife if you don't have one to chop your onions. And I'll also link all the other things that you need to know for this particular meal. If you want to join me in Mama Witten's kitchen and you're not already, you can also comment cook and I'll see it and I'll get back to you anytime. I hope you've enjoyed this meal. I hope you make it for your family. And as always, happy cooking, y'all. Now go make some pasta.